So this is Monday Night Quarterback, and Kyle and I are going to chew on this thing. I mean, we've had a couple of days to devour what we saw on Saturday. Kyle rewatched the football game. Kyle, I didn't have the stomach to do that, but I did watch it the first time. And between that and Deontay Wilder's loss, I feel like somebody just ran up and kicked me right in the gut. I think a lot of us feel like that right now. The good news is, Kyle, is that Alabama can still accomplish everything that they set out to accomplish. That's what Nick Saban told us today in the press conference. I said it right after the game. They've got still some really tough contests ahead.
Yeah, I think when I rewatched the game today and, I went through it, and there was never, honestly, because I know that everybody just wants to automatically fire Pete Golding, right? That's like that's the one thing. Once Alabama loses or they get in trouble, they're like, fire Pete Golding. And I get it. Your expectations for the defense are perfection. And I think you get that because you're a fan of Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a defensive-minded coach. You grew up watching Alabama. You're accustomed to the old Alabama football and the old days of college football where it used to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust and Alabama was winning 35-7, right? So now we've moved into another world where the Big 12 offense is everywhere. Teams are scoring a ton of points, 35, 42 points. Now, with that said, I'm not condoning allowing, these big point totals, right? Anytime that a team scores over 17, I feel that's too much. I think like 17 is the old 3 points, whatever, of the old college football world. But I never felt with watching that game that it was strictly on Pete Golding. Okay. Look, I think the last defensive series where Texas A&M drove down the field to kick the game-winning field goal. Yeah. The defense, they didn't do their job. And ultimately, they were able to kick a field goal to win the game. But I look at kind of that first half of the game, a lot of dropped passes by Alabama wide receivers. I felt some of the Alabama receivers weren't being aggressive enough. I thought the play calling inside the red zone was atrocious, to be honest. I felt that Brian Robinson looked like the Brian Robinson from the previous game, right, against Ole Miss, where he was just, he was the Brian Robinson we're accustomed to, the big imposing back, and he looked as he could just take over this game. And every single time that Alabama got inside the red zone, Alabama starts throwing the football. And that was one of the most perplexing things when rewatching that game is, why not give it to your bell cow? Why not put the game of this magnitude on the shoulders of your fifth-year senior, right? I mean, Brian Robinson has the most experience out of anybody on the team. Give the ball to him. Even Devontae Smith. You said Mark Ingram. I didn't see that tweet, but I saw that Devontae Smith was like, run the damn ball, right?
Yeah.
So, Bryce gets down there. He throws an interception, and he threw the ball inside the red zone. Now, can you point that interception on Pete Golding? No, you can't do that. Can you point the red zone flaws on Pete Golding? You can't do that. Now, I'm not condoning anything, any offensive or defensive coordinator, so don't get that twisted inside the comment box. What I'm saying is, if you look at the game collectively, this team lost as a team. It wasn't on somebody. You win as a team and you lose as a team. Alabama, they lost this game strictly as a team. And look, they even allowed a special teams touchdown, right? So the turnovers, they led to touchdowns, special teams. You got to tighten up, and we can talk more about it, but I never once felt that it was strictly on one specific person after rewatching that game for a second time. But Mick, I want to ask you a question. Look, people just want to talk about this. Let's talk about it. Is Pete Golding the sole reason for this loss, and does Pete Golding need to be fired or let go immediately?
No. Look, the worst thing you could do is fire any of the coaches right now. I mean, you got to be focused on the next week, and you don't need a distraction like that. Remember, we had this guy named Lane Kiffin that was coaching offense for Alabama, and a very famous ESPN guy named Michael Wilbon called him a clown. And I was one that, like, Kyle and I were on different sides of this. I thought Wilbon was exactly right. Even though he's a great coach and he does all these things offensively, he's a clown. He just does stuff like drop the popcorn, drop the mic and the popcorn. And when he was at Alabama, he's just doing good. He changed the offense, but then, his off the field antics. Eventually, Nick Saban had enough, and he was gone by the end. And we didn't have him for the championship game, and we end up losing to Clemson for the national championship. The guys there, we win, but you could tell that he was preoccupied with something else, maybe his new job, who knows, right? But it didn't help. Maybe we should have just stuck with him. Looking out, I mean, hindsight, but same thing with Pete Golding. I mean, Pete Golding was loyal to Alabama and stuck around. I know a lot of you guys are frustrated with him. I've got a lot of friends that agree with you. I just don't. I'm looking at this football game, and the defense to me is one reason why Alabama lost. But there's blame to go around on every single facet of the game: offense, defense, and special teams.